Welcome to the Mind, Heart, Gut podcast. I'm your host, Christian Borja. Here we go beyond the surface and dive into what truly means to live well. This is a space for conversation on holistic health, mindset, emotional clarity, and conscious living, all through the lens of the body's three powerful intelligence centers: the mind, the heart, and the gut. Whether you're here to reset, reflect, or reimagine what wellness looks like in your life, I'm glad you're here. So let's dive in. All right, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the podcast here. And today we're going to be focusing in on listening to your body, how movement heals your internal systems. All right, now, have you ever pushed through a workout, ignored fatigue, or chased fitness goals only to crash later? I did. All right, and it cost me a lot. It cost me my health. It cost me a lot of time. It cost me a lot of frustration. Because as you get into the fitness, realm, there's a lot of information out there, and it's really hard to be able to navigate, as there's so many different opinions and approaches, and it's about having an understanding of the body and making sure that your intentions are in the right place. For me, I first got into fitness coming out of addiction. I had about a 10-year long drug addiction. If you've listened to my story and whatnot, you know what I've been through on my journey. Now, as I first started getting into fitness, I really liked the way that my body was looking, as being someone that was super skinny my entire life, but extremely skinny as, I was going through, substance abuse. For me to be able to start taking care of my body and seeing the response in the way that I looked aesthetically, it was super motivating. However, though, I started to find a new addiction to pushing, ignoring my fatigue, focusing in on aesthetics, trying to get, stronger and stronger, which are all good things, right? They're all good things, but it was more so how my relationship was to these things. It was very ego driven. And this led to a lot of unfortunate things for me along my journey, but all to teach me a very important and valuable lesson, right? So what I realized through my journey is that movement isn't just about aesthetics, all right? It's about supporting your cardiovascular system, your lymphatic, digestive, nervous system, and really focusing in on making sure that the way that you're moving, the way that you're nourishing your body, and that your mindset all reflect in supporting you and the lifestyle and the things that you really want to experience in this life. Because taking care of yourself allows you to be capable to do just about anything. So we're going to dive into some of the key points in my approach to this intentional, lifestyle of health and fitness and mindset and nourishing our body, right? So number one, all right, a little bit of the science of movement and our internal systems, because here's the thing: the more you understand on how the body works and operates, well, then the better you can support it, so that we actually allow our body to respond in the aesthetic ways that we want it. If you're looking to lose weight or you are looking to build muscle for the right reasons, so that you are more capable, so that you have, more confidence in yourself, right? The mental, the emotional, as well as the physical. These are all important things. But the more we understand how to actually work with our body in the approach to supporting our systems, this is what's going to allow all those things to naturally happen, but at the same time, allow you to be happy with your journey, allow you to really see the changes that are coming through instead of continuously chasing something that will actually never really make you happy, right? So understanding the body and how the systems work is very important, all right? The first thing is that movement helps regulate stress as well as hormones. And this is the big thing that I work with and talk to most of my clients on. This is why they come to me, is because, everyone deals with stress. a lot of people end up getting very sick, and a lot of people die from stress. So I find that understanding how stress works in the body and how we can control and work with our stress is one of the most valuable things that we can know how to do to be able to support our life, create better health, create better energy, and, really make the most out of this experience. So, all right, movement, aerobic movement. These are all going to be things that are going to help regulate our stress. Right. The big hormone, we'll get into hormones too. The big hormone word that everyone's, really, really talking about is cortisol and testosterone. All right. Especially for me, I get a lot of people that come to me because they're dealing with cortisol or testosterone issues. All right. Now, from my experience and what I've found in myself being able to regulate these hormones and work with these hormones and working with clients and being able to rebalance out the body is making sure that we're getting in the right movements. You have the right approach to your fitness game. Now, all right, this is going to be a balanced approach of aerobic exercise, right? A little bit more higher intensity, something that gets the heart rate up, something that, gets you sweating a little bit, because this is what's going to allow us to use our cortisol. See, the biggest reason why people have issues with cortisol is because you get stressed out while you're sitting down. And so if you're at your job and you have a stressful day and you're at a desk all day and you're having to deal with this stress, or you're driving and you're sitting in traffic for hours and you're dealing with stress sitting down, all right, that stress, even though we may not feel like we have to fight anyone or run away from anything, our body internally is, because that is just the automatic response that our body has when we're dealing with stress. And so we are in that fight or flight response. So our body is pumping cortisol out to help give us the energy to be able to fight or run. But we're sitting down. So it's almost as if you are pressing on the gas, but also pressing down on the brake at the same time. We all know that ain't good for your car. So it is extremely important that when you feel stressed or anxious or frustrated or angry, that you move your body. Now, a couple things is that our body automatically releases cortisol first thing in the morning. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, your body is supposed to pump cortisol. And this is what gets you your alertness and helps you wake up in the morning. So, if you've ever felt fatigued and still tired and drained when you first wake up, it sucks. Well, that's your body not releasing any cortisol. And then usually majority goes and they get themselves coffee, and they use that caffeine now to trigger the cortisol. That's an imbalance right there. So it's important, and we'll get to that in a different in a different podcast. But we want our body to be able to release its cortisol, the cortisol on its own. However, though, this goes into your nourishment and nutrition. If you've been, using coffee first thing in the morning to get your day going, you've been telling your body that it doesn't need to do what it needs to do. And so that's an area that, I often have all my clients reflect on and start working with that relationship better to be able to allow our body to do what it needs to do on its own. So, all right, but here's the thing. With cortisol being released first thing in the morning, this is why getting some movement in first thing in the morning is so important. And one of the best things that you can do is just getting outside and going for a simple walk. Because not only getting outside and moving your body is going to help work with that cortisol and make sure we get that cortisol used up and allow our body to find a nice balanced energy within to be able to go through the next part of our day. All right, but not only that, getting outside, even if it's still dark outside, if it's completely dark, we want to be outside when the sun is just coming up, or the first hours of morning when that sun is out. Try to not wear any sunglasses. This is going to help regulate a lot within our body. You're going to get your vitamin D coming through, your hormone D, I should say, right? And we're going to start to allow the internal clock called our circadian rhythm to get on point. So a morning walk is one of the best ways to get the body going and work with the body's energy systems as well as the hormones to be able to create balance for your day. Now, again, like I said, this is going to create energy for you, lasting energy. This is going to help bring clarity to the mind and allow you to be able to focus throughout the day, but not be, like a crackhead, all hopped up on caffeine, excuse me. I'm having a hard time talking. Not be all hopped up on caffeine and, not coming from a place of stress. As a dad, I've got kids that we got to get to school. I got to get off to work, and mornings can be very stressful. And there's times where I kind of react in the way that I don't really want to react before I send my kids off to school, or before I say, I take off for work and tell my family I love them and I'll see them later. I want to leave on a really positive note. So by implementing a routine that's going to help balance out my energy, really helps me actually be successful with how I want my mornings to go and how I want my family to feel and all of that stuff. So getting some morning movement. Now, if you can, after a morning walk and getting outside, if you can get into some mobility and then some functional training, like some functional strength, like doing some compound movements like squats, or getting into some burpees, some push-ups, some low rows, some back exercises, and some core work. Core work's extremely, extremely important, especially to help support our digestive system. This is going to be amazing. All right. And if you guys go look in my prior videos that I've posted up on YouTube and even on my social media, if you guys are on Instagram or TikTok, find me there. I've got tons of movements that y'all can try out for free and see which ones, feel good for you, and start to kind of formulate your own little movement routine. It could be 5-10 minutes, doesn't have to be anything crazy. Work with the time that you have. It's not going to overstress you out. Again, we don't want to add things that are going to add stress to the morning, as the mornings can already be really stressful. So be mindful of the time you have and the energy of your morning. We want to keep things positive. So, all right, movement to help regulate stress, help regulate your hormones, and help build energy to start your day. All right, now the next thing is your lymphatic system and your immune system. All right, now there are movements that help support these areas of the body. Right now, our lymphatic system, I'm sure some of you guys have heard a lot of talk about the lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system are the sewage drains for our body. So your lymphatic system is what helps detoxify your body. However, our lymphatic system does not have a pump like our cardiovascular system, the blood system, has with the heart. So our lymphatic system has to be manually activated. We have to pump the lymphatic. And how do we do that? Through movement. All right, now again, if you guys check out my Instagram or TikTok, you will see that I post a lot about lymphatic movement, which is stuff like rebounds or lymphatic massages and tapping and things like this. Now, the reason why this is important, I'm sure you all have heard, stay away from a stagnant body of water, as it's a breeding ground for bacteria and viruses. Well, if you didn't know, we are majority water, all right? We are over 60% water. So, we don't want to allow our waters to be stagnant. And getting up and walking around, your house, and then getting in the car and sitting down, and then getting to work and sitting down, our waters are stagnant all day long. If you are not actively moving, where you're getting your heart rate up just a little bit, then we are not helping flush those sewer systems out. So therefore, we are going to now have toxins that are going to build up throughout the lymphatic system. And our lymphatic system has major nodes within all of our joints and throughout the body. So if you're dealing with joint pain, 9 times out of 10, it's from an overtoxified lymphatic system, which is then therefore creating inflammation within these joints, which is now creating tension, pushing down on nerves, and just limiting our overall range of motion, mobility, and energy to be able to get things moving and actually allow the mechanical functions of our body to work properly. So again, All right, your movement is so important. Check out my Instagram, my TikTok, or my prior videos here that focus in on the mobility and flexibility stuff. All that stuff is going to help get this lymphatic system flowing and moving and get those waters internally out of stagnicity. Right, and this is going to help build energy too. I've seen dams and water energy. Our body does the same thing. All right, here's a little deep dive tip as far as energy. Okay, all the natural energy sources that we see, being implemented around the world, talking about wind, talking about sun, talking about water, talking about ground energy, right? And a lot of you will know that there's energy all around us. Our body builds energy in the same way. The sun gives us energy, right? Moving our internal waters gives us energy. Being outside gives us energy. Grounding gives us energy. So I'll be diving in and going really in depth on all of those things, but just a little, just to kind of plant the seed for y'all. It's all important stuff. All right. Now, it's important that that we're creating a balance, though, and I said this earlier, a balance between the movements. Yes, we want to get the heart rate up. Yes, we want to get sweat going through, but it's also important to focus in on the mobility and the flexibility, because this is really where we support, all right, the central nervous system, being able to allow the body to get into, fight or flight. When we get the heart rate up and we start to sweat, we're starting to dive into a fight or flight response, especially if we're pushing ourselves through, more challenging workouts like getting a core burn or doing some burpees or doing some heavier strength lifting or running or sprinting, right? This typically puts us into a fight or flight mode because we're having to push, we're having to fight, or we're having to fly. All right. Even though we're like, well, I'm feel relaxed and I'm happy doing it. I get it. But our body's internal response to allow us to do those higher intensity things is that of getting ourselves into that fight or flight response. However, it's in a positive and safe environment, which this helps build resilience. But it's also important to allow our body to know and be in control of implementing the rest and digest and recovery response aspect of our central nervous system as well, also known as your parasympathetic. So that balance is very important. All right. Now, as far as, and these are all going to help your immune system as well. Your lymphatic system and your immune system are directly connected. And most of the time, most people are like, oh, I'm getting sick, my immune system is struggling with something. It's because, your body's full of toxins. It's because you're probably not eating the best foods. You're not moving enough, and you're stressed. You've been in a fight or flight response more than you should. Those are what are going to get you sick. If those three areas of your health are out, then your body is going to get sick. It's not that one person is going to get you sick. You are doing it to yourself. So your body has to do a forceful detox. And that's where you get the congestion. That's where you start to get a fever. That's when you start to, get all of these things, because your body is forcefully making you detox and rest, digest, and recover. All right, so a little bit of truth with that there. Now, this can be overwhelming, taking a new approach to your health, your movement, your nourishment, all this stuff. So I encourage you to be patient with yourself. But overall, all right, from my own experience, I was someone that was obsessed with the no pain, no gain. Go, go, go. That's what I thought I needed to do until I started facing adrenal fatigue. It really allowed me to hit another rock bottom at this current state in my life. And, like I said, it brought me into adrenal fatigue. It brought me into a burnout. It brought me into an injury. And it's what really made me relook at how I looked at health, how I was implementing the different protocols and stuff within my own life. And it allowed me to switch from the ego-driven, momentum and motivation and everything into focusing in on nourishing my body, supporting my systems, and really working on creating real, true life force energy. And as I did that, everything else began to fall in place. I was no longer getting sick. I was starting to heal my body from the injury that I had. And honestly, I now have more energy than I've ever had in my life. So if this resonates with you and you're tired of guessing what your body needs, then let's work together. All right, my one-on-one holistic coaching program addresses movements, addresses stress, and recovery tailored to your systems. So if this is something that you're interested in learning more about and working on, then send me a direct message or apply at the link in my bio. Other than that, I hope that this brought some value into your life. If it did, you can send some love by liking, commenting, and most importantly of all, subscribing to the channel here. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Much love. Bye.